Welcome back to Car-Pinionated, our weekly show about cars, the car industry, and driving in general. I'm Doug Stewart, Senior Digital Content Producer at Fox 61 in Hartford. And this is my friend Glenn Packman, noted comedian, improv comedian, and Fairfield County resident and car enthusiast, and my friend of more than 30 years. Glenn, today we're going to talk Cadillac, the standard of the world. Um, and we have talked about Cadillac previously. We're not fans of their naming convention, but okay, we'll
Yes.
manage. Yeah.
Mhm.
But so they have shown off the new 2025 Escalade. And I like it. I just, I've always liked the presence of the Escalade, and this thing has presence from the front bumper to the rear bumper.
Right.
What are you thinking about the new Escalade?
Well, anyone who watches the show knows that, the really large SUVs are not my kind of car, but the Escalade has always been the Escalade. And I think it's one of Cadillac's few successes in that they've really carved out an image and, a name for the Escalade. It's a car synonymous with a lot. And that's really important for a mark like Cadillac because they're supposed to be the same thing. Um, the refresh perfectly fine keeps that language moving forward. It certainly is big. Will give it that. And we're venturing back into bigger is better territory, I suppose, as buyers. But I think it ticks the boxes for what an Escalade is supposed to be. Big,
Hmm.
luxurious, kind of thing that does turn a few heads. It's not cheap. It doesn't look cheap at all, which is,
No.
a huge plus because, if there's one thing that GM can do to really screw up a car is to make it look cheap. Um, sorry, did I say that out loud?
You
I guess I
did,
did.
in fact,
I
yeah.
did, yeah. So, but sometimes the truth hurts. That's not the case here. So they did their homework. Most of
Hmm.
all, they're just carrying through the Escalade name, which is one of their good ones. It doesn't sound like either a Cirque du Soleil show or a casino in Vegas. Welcome to the new Celestique. It's not that. Okay, right? Cirque du Soleil
Yeah.
presents a lyric. you know Sorry, it was a bit much, but it's true, and I know you're laughing at home.
True.
um
Yeah.
but yeah, either way, I got a little off course there, but I can't fault this car.
Hmm.
I know scores of people that would kill to drive one of these, and good,
Right.
good Cadillac. What worries me is sales. You can introduce as many of these cars as you want. Are they going to make enough money to sustain the production? So
I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna go with yes.
okay, all
and
right.
and here and here's my reasoning.
Mm,
It's a top dollar car, premium pricing. And you have a built-in market of uh companies that will buy these as livery vehicles in some
right,
manner, way,
right,
shape, or form. Right.
right.
So
That's a
that's
good
your
point.
built-in market. And then
Yeah.
then you have the market of the people who don't buy the ones that are painted black,
Mm,
that they're the people of your neighborhoods
right,
who want that big car. Then you get to the fact that this is not a one-off, right? This is a Suburban and a Yukon
right.
underneath, because so all your engineering and stuff is amortized over three different dealerships,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
and you're
That makes
able
sense.
to, none of those three models are cheap, right? And
Mm,
then point two is that you're 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 also amortizing it over um the what is the Tahoe model in each of
mhm.
these, and then the Suburban model. So you have the shorter wheelbase, the longer wheelbase, because all your engineer, I mean, I am simplifying it a great deal, but all your engineering is basically done once and then spread out over three car lines and two body styles,
Right.
right? And not even to start about, like, a lot of that comes from the pickup truck platform, right? So not cheap to build, but not like you're building these one-off cars.
Right.
Um, I like this. I like the design. I'm anxious to see what the V series looks and sounds like. I mean,
Hmm.
these are some of the last big V8 vehicles that we'll see
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
And you know, that dashboard from basically from side mirror to side mirror, you know,
Hmm.
is it's a long
It's
thing,
it is
you know,
yeah.
and
It creates the optical illusion that the car is as wide as your common camper, to be honest with you. It looks
yeah,
huge. And I know
right.
it's no huger than anything else, but it does create that horizontal line. Yeah.
Yeah,
I do
and
I do
go
have
ahead.
one styling question while we're sort of there. Does this car have headlights? I'm looking at, they have got the perfect dead on front of this car, and it's
Yeah,
beautiful. It is a big grill. I mean, it's one
yeah.
of those big, but it doesn't look completely out of whack size wise, but it doesn't look like there are real headlights on this car. And I know there
Uh,
have to be, but it's got thin little slits of white and then the two things going down the sides, none of which really read
I
headlights.
think
But I will,
I th I think
go ahead.
those things that are, I think the vertical things are the headlights.
Yeah, yeah, they must be. So interesting.
Those look like they have. There's a reason why I'm not a headlight designer and engineer, but I think that those are that those have kind of what I would term the depth to be headlights.
Okay.
Um, and it's all, you know, you go up to one of these and it's all a magic show, you know,
Yeah,
especially the EV versions of these where the, you know,
sure.
the grill does a starburst and all these other things. That's what I think.
Right.
But you know what they've successfully integrated on the front end is, you know, the camera, right, just right
Hmm.
there under the crest.
Hmm.
And below that, where the license plate would go, it looks like that's the, you know, the non-optical sensing
Right.
things, you know,
Yep.
the I don't know if it's radar, but radar like
Yeah.
sonar, whatever you would
Yeah.
call it. Um,
Proximity detectors. Yeah.
yeah, let's that's much better sounding
Yeah.
than what I was saying. Um, yeah,
Those things. Those
and
things. Yeah.
there's a lot of different pieces of the Celestique that show up here, and we've
Celestine. All right.
Celestique, right?
I can't. Seriously?
Prepared
Seriously.
to be
Ladies and gentlemen,
amazed.
the song Stylings of Celestique. Thank you. Thank you. It just, no, sorry.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
one thing that I know I could do for real in the auto industry is come up with some better names than some of these,
Better names.
And
Yeah.
Cadillac really, sorry, it's a nudgy fiddly kind of thing, but they're, the CTS line doesn't really stand out as a name.
Mm,
It's not like, okay, the BMW has the 3 Series.
right.
That's a numerical that we all get, when Cadillac gets into that territory, it loses clarity.
Right,
So
right. Yeah, yeah,
the Escalade was, the name is right for the car, fits perfectly.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know if I would name a car a Lyric with a Q on the end. I just,
Well,
no, no,
it you know, it kind of defines their, you know,
yeah,
their products. But you
right,
know, and then they go, and I don't remember, it's a version of the Escalade that's on the Ultium platform, and you know, is all those things. And you know, you give people different flavors to choose from. You can buy, you know, your electric power, you can buy your gasoline powered, you know,
right.
you get your choice, you know.
Hmm?
The other car I wanted to talk to you about was um what they came out with. They're showing it. It's a styling exercise,
Uh-huh. Let me
but
pull it.
uh,
Uh,
uh, when asked if they would build this car, Cadillac Vice President told Autoblog, "Today it is a design exploration, and it's the Soleil." And I'm
mhm.
hoping that I'm
As in,
pronouncing the
as
Cirque
in
du.
Cirque du, I mean,
Yeah.
they're not even hiding it anymore, Doug.
And it is a beautiful interpretation of a convertible version of the Celestique.
Right,
And
right.
I think this is gorgeous. I mean, I certainly could see uh, you know, Cadillac drivers, up and down South Beach,
Mm,
or through the nicer neighborhoods of Los Angeles and environs like that,
mm,
driving this car.
yeah,
It's got I might go with a different color, but okay, it is a pretty color, which harkens back to like a 1958 color that they had. Anyway,
yeah.
again, a screen that goes from that spans the entire dashboard, and hand worked wood inserts into the back of the seats and the door panels, and a tiny little cooler with very expensive looking glassware and speakers in the headrests and all this stuff. And
Right.
what are your thoughts on the Soleil?
Um, all joking about the name aside, ugh, it's it's a near miss for me.
No.
I think I think that, and it's one thing. It's just one thing killing me on the styling of this car. It's the back overhang
Mm,
is just it's two. Especially look at this car from behind in 3/4, and it really just looks like it's got 10 feet overhanging the back axle. And it
mm,
just, I don't know what it is, but it throws the car for me. If they chopped off a foot off of that trunk,
mm,
I just, it would end up being something that I would be way more interested in. It's not going to look as big. And I think that,
mm,
they're looking for a real boulevard cruiser. They're looking, this is obviously the car that they want to sell to a movie producer who drives around Hollywood with his 20-year-old girlfriend. Okay. That's this car. And there's nothing wrong with that. If I was a movie producer, hey. But I think it's just that it's that one styling cue that blows the car for me, and everything else I
mm,
really like about it. So you know, maybe I should withhold until I see it up close, because sometimes when you see a car in person,
mm.
it changes. And it's gone both ways for me, where I've seen photos where I'm like, oh my God, that's gorgeous. And then I see it up close and I go, no, not really. So this could go either way for me, but I'm not a fan of the back overhang. Everything else, fine, great,
Yeah,
lovely. It is
I'm
kind of low to the ground too. It's a very, I mean, it's got,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's
Um,
one thing that actually concerns me. If you look at this in profile, it's like it's got a ground clearance of about 3 inches. It's just
yeah.
you really,
Yeah, in reality it might, but that's a
yeah,
concept car thing that they make
yes,
these low to the ground and
right,
stuff. And
right,
and I'm getting Auburn Sportster Speedster. There's an Auburn that's almost the same color from the
uh,
30s, a boat
uh,
tail speedster. I think that's what it is. I'm getting that vibe, even though it doesn't have that boat tail sort of thing. I'm getting vibes of that 71 Buick Riviera boat tail too.
mm,
You know,
yeah,
classic GM design, that just, controversial, but still thought of very highly. Um,
right,
and it's this is about Cadillac having a platform, the $340,000 limited run sedan, and they basically will build them however you want, whatever colors, whatever interior design. But this for them is an exercise. I think this is a nice, if they decided to do this, this would be a very nice um intellectual, as kind of a flagship vehicle, even in making the thought. And
mm,
I think that one of the things that this car does that the Celestique does, the EV version of the Escalade does, is it establishes Cadillacs in the mindset of where they used to be in the
yeah,
40s, 50s, and 60s, um, and kind of creates a thing that I don't. I think that Cadillac has built some great cars in the past 10 or 15 years.
Undoubtedly,
You
yeah.
know, the CT5, is gets great reviews. But I don't think it becomes top of mind when people with money are looking to spend money.
Right,
If they might buy an Escalade, but it might be owned by the company that they have, and they're just carted around in it, you know,
right, right,
but well, good for them. Good for,
right.
and we'll end up seeing the Escalade, the new gas version of the Escalade. So this is the kind of their mid-cycle refresh for this generation. Um,
Mm,
I'm pretty sure we're seeing new Suburbans and Denali's as well. But they're leading off with the Escalade. And the other thing I wanted to mention is it's the really interesting history of the Escalade, how Lincoln came out with the Navigator and blew everyone out of the market. Full size luxury SUV. Lincoln sold everyone that they made, and and then Cadillac came out with that first version, which was not it was a pretty thinly disguised Yukon Denali. What I don't think that's what they called it back then, but the GMC version,
right,
which was a fairly thinly disguised Chevy Suburban,
right.
with a much nicer dash and leather seats and all that stuff. And then the second gen of the Escalade just hits it out of the park. And
Yeah,
then they never look back.
yeah,
Lincoln has built the Navigator since, but no, I don't think Navigator ends up in that discussion.
right, right. Um,
Anyway, go ahead.
maybe this might be a topic for like an entirely different episode, but I also my my question for Cadillac as a mark is it something that is just naturally fading out of out of people's want and desire list? It just here's let me just rewind a little bit.
Okay.
On the cusp of baby boom Gen X. Okay. So I most of my friends are Gen Xers, so that's kind of where I air, but I'm like right on the dividing line. And
Right.
Cadillac was, as a kid, for me, Cadillac was, it was iconic because it's what,
Mhm.
if you could afford a Cadillac, you were saying something to the world. Uh,
Right.
you really were. I mean, and there were a couple
Oh yeah.
marks like that back then where it's like, wow, you drive a fill in the blank. And that's sort of that's lessened over the years. Yeah, there's still things that are impressive to people and make them turn heads. I just don't know if younger generations are going to identify with that or want it.
Yeah.
All I can relate it to is having a set of really good fine china used to be just one of those benchmarks. I
Yeah.
mean, when I was a kid, all I can remember
And your
about
silverware, the nice
right,
silverware. Yeah.
exactly. And now you can't get rid of this stuff. Younger people today have zero interest or almost zero interest in a set of that fine china that you bring out once a year. And I'm wondering if your luxury marks are going that way. Are they just headed that way naturally? Not because they're putting out bad cars, but just because it's what people want. Uh, will there always be a place for it? I don't know. I don't know. It just, for me, the Cadillac name goes hand in hand with being both luxurious and a little stodgy, you know?
Mm,
Uh, Buick has the same problem. And the sucky thing for Buick is they have a really good lineup right now. They really do.
yeah.
They have a
Yeah.
couple Buicks that I would definitely drive.
Hmm.
But the name just doesn't ring true. And I don't know if
Hmm.
young people are going to be driving their Buicks. The
Yeah.
Chinese love them. We know that.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
that's
I,
so that's sort of a general, just an umbrella kind of thing. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I think that I think that they haven't established, we've talked about Cadillac in the past, that, the people who buy Cadillacs are aging out of the market.
Mhm.
And
Right.
I think that that a lot of people don't consider the brand.
Yeah.
And I'll take an example. One of the reporters at the station, he was looking to buy a new car, and it's it's like, BMW, Audi, what am I thinking? And he's talking the 3 Series and the,
Right.
the smaller Audis. And I said, you should look at a Cadillac. He's like, I was like, no, really, seriously, they have some, you know, interesting models that, are fun to drive, and, you might be well served. And just he rejected it out of hand, and that's fine. You can take my advice and don't take my advice. I don't care.
Mhm.
But I think that I think like people like us will consider a Cadillac, not that we're buying Cadillacs, but we'll consider that in the global automotive market, where other people I think won't. Those people who
Right.
don't spend a lot of time thinking about cars.
Right.
So I think that that's part of the problem. And I think these new EVs are definitely thought leaders, if nothing else. They're something that people can, attach as being sort of this brand icon, and then, to have that sort of spillover effect farther down the line. I
Mhm.
don't know. I think it's an uphill battle. I think it's,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
they're still in the game. They're certainly
Yeah.
not, they're not laying back and, coming out with just every, tarted up versions of, every other GM,
Yeah.
platform. and
Right.
and they so good on them,
Right.
and I think that they, like Lincoln, know who they are, right?
Mhm.
I think they're when you talk classic American luxury vehicles, there's Lincoln, Cadillac. There always has been, right?
Right.
And I think that the distinction and the differences between the two were for a long time like really, few and far between. But Cadillac, interesting designs, that their whole art and science design language, which, still continues to this day, and driving dynamics. And, if you go look at reviews of the CT5e, they are, this car has really great driving dynamics. It's great ride. It's, all these other things, and good for them. And they understand that, and they know what they are, right? Lincoln knows what they are, a big
Mhm.
luxury vehicle, right?
Right.
And all the amenities and all that stuff, you get in and you feel pampered and coddled, and you have
Right.
65 and a half way seats, and, you know, 48 speakers throughout the cabin, and, you
Mhm.
don't have to think about the outside world. And
Yeah.
so so that's where you start with knowing who you are and what you're going to provide. And
Mhm.
then, then it becomes the marketing people, and
Right.
getting out
Right.
there and saying, you know we have this product, and now figure out who to sell it to. So
Right. Right. For
yeah.
it's not, just to be clear, I'm not talking about their product itself. I'm specifically just talking about imaging. And if you go to to your focus groups and you ask them, what does Cadillac mean to you? You're going to get a lot of adjectives that aren't terribly hip, for lack of a better term.
Well,
And that's good and bad. I mean, it used to be that, Cadillac was a mark to aspire to. And I don't know if that's holding for the brand at all. I don't think you're going to hear about a lot of 30-year-olds who are building their
mm,
career who aspire to own one of these. There's some, I'm sure, because their dad owned one or their grandfather owned one or whatever, but that's still throwing back to an older feel. So that's my only real concern is when I think Cadillac, I don't think youth. I don't think vim and vigor. I think of something really luxurious and really expensive. Ultimate,
as Jeff would say, Sedan Deville.
right, right. Jeff. But yeah, that's a bummer because you're right. Cadillac has been making some really good cars that aren't really getting a lot of focus. But honestly, the people that I know in their 30s and 40s who are affording a luxury car, I don't think they're looking
No,
at Cadillac. No,
because they're all marching to the same, their friend bought an Audi, or their friend bought a BMW, or,
sure.
and people like you and I kind of look at cars in a different way than they do.
Right, right, for sure.
And
I
they're
mean,
and so like they don't necessarily want to strike out, some a new direction, you
right,
know, and you know, tis capitalism in America.
really, absolutely. So,
All right. And that's going to be it for this week. Our usual housekeeping here. Um, Find us on YouTube, Fox 61 News, and like and subscribe. There's a playlist for all the Car-Pinionated episodes, rather. And you can watch them all and enjoy them all in the comfort of your own home.
mhm.
Also, we're on Fox 61 Plus at 8 o'clock in the evening, Monday through Friday. Um, please enjoy our shows. We enjoy doing them and hope that you have as fun as well. If you have a weird car that you'd like us to talk about, please send us a note at dstewart at fox61.com, STEWART. And that will be it for this week. All right. See ya.